Ethan stepped off the transport shuttle onto the rocky surface of Lythera 9, a planet known for its harsh environment and strange wildlife. The wind whipped against his helmet, carrying fine red dust that glowed faintly under the planet's twin suns. He adjusted his gloves and surveyed the landscape. Towering cliffs, jagged rock formations, and distant mountains created an almost alien beauty. This was not a place for humans to feel at home. But Ethan had always loved challenges. He had been assigned to the Lythera Research Station, a small outpost built to study the planet's unique ecosystem and magnetic anomalies. Most days were routine collecting samples, analyzing terrain, and sending data back to the main colony. But today promised something different. Reports had mentioned a rare Virelian presence near the northern ridge. Humans rarely saw these beings up close. And there she was. Lyra emerged from behind a tall boulder, her lithe form moving gracefully. Her skin shimmered faintly in the red sunlight, reflecting patterns of light like the scales of a fish. Her eyes were large, dark, and curious. But there was a cautiousness to her gaze. She froze for a moment when she saw Ethan, her delicate hands slightly raised in a silent greeting. Ethan slowed his pace, not wanting to startle her. He had studied Virelians before they were intelligent, resourceful, and cautious, especially around humans. Many explorers reported them as shy, almost timid. But Ethan could sense something more beneath her gentle demeanor. "Hello," he said softly, lowering his voice. "I'm not here to harm you." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. A faint ripple ran along her arms, a sign of Virelian communication, subtle and almost invisible to most humans. She nodded slowly and stepped closer, still cautious but clearly curious. Ethan extended his hand carefully. "I'm Ethan. I study this planet. My team, we're trying to understand it better." Lyra's eyes flicked to his hand, then back to his face. After a long moment, she mirrored his gesture in her way, touching the air in front of her as if accepting his introduction. Ethan smiled. Communication would take patience, but the first step was always trust. Over the next hour, Ethan and Lyra moved carefully through the rocky terrain. Ethan collected samples of strange plants with bioluminescent leaves, while Lyra demonstrated ways to detect safe paths and hidden dangers. She seemed shy at first, speaking only when necessary. But Ethan noticed her intelligence shone through in her actions. She observed the environment with precision, pointing out subtle signs that a human eye could easily miss: slight shifts in the dust, indicating predator movement, faint energy traces in the rocks, suggesting magnetic activity. "You're very observant," Ethan said as they crouched near a small crevice. "I didn't see that." Lyra's lips curved slightly, a shy smile. She tapped her chest lightly, a Virelian gesture for modesty. Ethan laughed softly, careful not to startle her. "I'll have to learn your ways," he said. For the next few days, their partnership grew slowly. Ethan learned that Lyra preferred quiet spaces and minimal, sudden movement. She was careful, always aware of the dangers, yet there was a spark of curiosity in her eyes when she explored something new. They shared small victories, cataloging alien plant species, recording magnetic fluctuations, and even capturing images of a rare, glowing creature that darted among the rocks at night. Despite her reserved nature, Lyra occasionally displayed subtle signs of humor. Once, she mimicked Ethan's clumsy attempt to climb a steep slope, making him laugh out loud. Another time, she nudged a rock just right to reveal a hidden pool of water, her eyes sparkling at his surprise. Each moment built a quiet connection, a bond not of words, but of shared experience and trust. But Ethan also began to notice peculiarities in Lyra's behavior. She would sometimes pause and breathe rapidly, her gaze drifting to the horizon, as if reacting to something invisible. Her skin would glimmer in a slightly different pattern, a sign of internal energy shifts that he could not fully understand yet. He remembered reports mentioning the Virelian heat cycle, a rare but natural biological phenomenon in her species that heightened energy, instincts, and physical abilities. He wondered if he was witnessing the early signs. One evening, the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the red plains. Ethan and Lyra sat near a cluster of rocks, cataloging samples from the day. The air was cooler now, but a faint hum ran beneath the surface magnetic energy that the Virelians could sense more acutely than humans. Lyra's body twitched slightly, and Ethan noticed her pupils dilate, her posture tensing in subtle ways. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. He had learned to notice the smallest changes in her behavior, but he still didn't fully understand their meaning. Lyra blinked, then tilted her head and tapped her chest again. A human would have taken this as a simple, "I'm fine." But Ethan knew it was more complex. Her species often concealed feelings with gestures, especially around humans. Night fell, and the temperature dropped sharply. Ethan built a small fire, the glow reflecting on Lyra's shimmering skin. She watched silently, the warmth of the fire contrasting with the strange energy stirring inside her. She seemed both shy and restless, a combination Ethan found fascinating. "Lythera is beautiful at night," Ethan said quietly, breaking the silence. "But dangerous too. We need to stay alert." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the dark horizon. For a moment, she looked almost vulnerable, her usual composure softened by the night. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness. This wasn't just another mission now. It was personal. He wanted to ensure she was safe, not just for the sake of science, but because he genuinely cared. A sudden rustle in the nearby rocks startled them both. A small predator, no larger than a wolf, darted past, its glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. Lyra's body reacted instantly. She leapt, moving with agility and precision Ethan had never seen before. Her hands struck with speed, capturing the creature without harming it. Ethan stared, astonished. "You're incredible," he said. "I didn't know you could move like that." Lyra's cheeks flushed faintly, a rare display of emotion. She tapped her chest again and then looked away, embarrassed. Ethan realized that these moments of instinctive strength were part of her heat cycle, a natural part of her biology that could transform her abilities dramatically. As the night wore on, Ethan reflected on everything he had learned. Lyra was shy, intelligent, and cautious. Yet beneath that quiet exterior was a species capable of extraordinary energy and instinct. He realized that understanding her fully would require patience, trust, and a willingness to see beyond the surface. By the time the twin moons rose high in the sky, Lyra had calmed, her body returning to its usual quiet state. She sat beside Ethan, her large eyes observing the stars. They did not speak. Words were unnecessary. The silence was comfortable, a shared understanding forming between them. Ethan knew the real challenge had not yet begun. Lyra's heat cycle, when fully manifested, would test his patience and ingenuity in ways he could not yet imagine. But for now, they had taken the first steps toward a partnership that could bridge human ingenuity and Virelian instinct. As the night deepened, Ethan made a silent promise. He would protect her, learn from her, and face whatever Lythera 9 could throw at them together. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the spark of anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new dangers, and perhaps the first true signs of the mysterious heat that would change everything. The sun rose slowly over Lythera 9, casting its twin beams across jagged cliffs and glowing red plains. Ethan packed their research equipment, glancing at Lyra. She moved with her usual quiet grace, collecting samples of strange moss that seemed to pulse faintly in the sunlight. Her calm exterior gave no hint of what was to come, yet Ethan sensed something stirring in her. As they moved toward the northern ridge, Lyra suddenly paused. Her large eyes scanned the horizon, pupils wide, body tensing subtly. Ethan noticed her fingers twitching, her posture slightly different from the usual measured movements. "Lyra?" he asked cautiously. "Is something wrong?" She shook her head, but her eyes told a different story. The subtle glow across her skin intensified, and a low hum seemed to radiate from her body. Ethan's mind clicked. This was no ordinary behavior. He had read about the Varelian heat cycle, a natural surge of energy that could make a Varelian stronger, faster, and more instinctive. But it was unpredictable and sometimes overwhelming. Before he could react, Lyra sprang forward with speed that startled him. A loose boulder threatened to roll down the slope near them, but in an instant, Lyra leapt, catching it with her hands and pushing it away from danger. Ethan blinked. He had seen her handle small predators before. But this display of raw strength and reflex was entirely different. "Lyra, wait!" he shouted, but she was already moving, her body reacting faster than his human instincts could keep up. She darted across the rocky ridge, scanning the area with heightened senses. Ethan followed, careful not to impede her movements. The heat cycle, he realized, was more than strength. It sharpened her instincts. Lyra's eyes detected subtle vibrations in the ground, hidden shifts in the rocks, and faint signals in the air that humans could not perceive. She guided Ethan through a narrow path that avoided sudden drops in unstable terrain. Without her, they might have walked into danger. Finally, they reached a plateau, overlooking a valley dotted with glowing alien plants. Lyra's breathing was rapid, but controlled. She tapped her chest lightly, a sign of acknowledgement, and for the first time, Ethan truly understood the intensity of the Varelian heat. It was not just a biological cycle, it was a force that shaped her abilities, her instincts, and even her perceptions. "You're incredible," Ethan said softly, still catching his breath. "I've never seen anything like this." Lyra's cheeks shimmered faintly, a Varelian expression of modesty mixed with pride. She did not speak, but her glance toward him conveyed trust. Ethan realized that her strength was not just physical, it was also a bond. She had chosen to protect him in this heightened state. The day continued with a mix of exploration and careful observation. Lyra moved fluidly, her heightened senses guiding them to hidden resources. They discovered a small water source tucked between rocks, its surface reflecting the strange red light of Lythera 9. Lyra approached it first, her hands skimming the water to check for movement or predators. Her instincts were flawless. Ethan knelt beside her, carefully examining the water. "This could help the colony survive the next heat wave," he said. "Good work, Lyra." She smiled faintly, a soft expression that made Ethan's heart warm. Despite the intensity of her heat cycle, she still had moments of gentle connection. As the afternoon approached, dark clouds rolled in from the horizon. Lythera 9's weather was unpredictable, and sudden storms could sweep across the plains without warning. Lyra's heightened senses picked up subtle shifts in wind and pressure, and she guided Ethan to a nearby cavern. Inside, the cave was narrow but stable. Ethan set up their equipment, recording magnetic data and scanning for life forms. Lyra moved with a strange balance of energy and caution, checking the cave walls and listening intently. Every now and then, she would tap her chest lightly, a signal of self-regulation. During her heat cycle, Ethan admired her focus. Hours passed, and the storm outside intensified. Lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating the jagged cliffs with brief flashes of brilliance. Rain began to fall, sizzling against the rocky surface. Ethan and Lyra worked together, sharing observations and protecting their instruments. Lyra's heat energy seemed to surge with the storm, making her movements almost superhuman. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the cave. A large rock slide threatened the entrance, cutting off their exit. Ethan froze, unsure what to do. But Lyra reacted instantly. With remarkable speed, she leapt toward the unstable rocks, using her strength to steady them and create a safe passage. Dust and debris flew around them, but she moved with precision, her instincts guiding every motion. Ethan followed her lead, relying on her judgment. He realized that her heat cycle was not a danger, it was a gift, when handled with care. It gave her the ability to protect both herself and others in extreme conditions. Once the rocks settled, they paused to catch their breath. Ethan looked at her, awe in his eyes. "You saved us," he said. I don't even know how to thank you." Lyra's cheeks glowed faintly. She tapped her chest lightly, a sign of humility. Her heat energy had not only given her strength, but had revealed the depth of her care and trust. Ethan felt a stronger connection forming, one built not just on shared survival, but on mutual respect and understanding. As night fell, the storm subsided, leaving a calm silence in its wake. Ethan and Lyra stepped out of the cave, the sky now clear, stars shimmering in patterns unfamiliar to human eyes. The twin moons rose, casting a gentle glow on the red plains. Lyra's body gradually returned to its usual calm state, her cheeks still faintly shimmering. Ethan set up a small fire, the warmth and light comforting after the intense day. Lyra sat beside him, silent but attentive, her large eyes reflecting the flames. She reached out, touching a piece of rock Ethan had collected, studying it with the precision of a scientist and the instinct of her species. "You really are remarkable," Ethan said softly. "Your heat, it's not just power, it's insight. You see the world differently." Lyra tilted her head, a small smile forming. She tapped her chest lightly and then gestured toward the night sky, an invitation for Ethan to share in the view. He nodded, understanding the silent connection. Words were not always necessary. Sometimes, trust and shared experience spoke louder than any language. The night was peaceful, but Ethan knew the real challenges were yet to come. Lyra's heat cycle would continue to shape their partnership, sometimes in ways unpredictable and intense. But he was ready. He had seen her strength, her instincts, and her intelligence. He had learned that true partnership required patience, empathy, and courage. As they prepared to rest, Ethan felt a sense of anticipation. Tomorrow, the planet would bring new discoveries, new dangers, and new opportunities to test their teamwork. And somewhere deep within, he felt the spark of something more, an understanding that Lyra's heat was not a challenge to fear, but a gift to embrace. The twin moons cast long shadows across the plains as Ethan closed his eyes, letting the sounds of Lythera 9 lull him to sleep. Lyra remained awake a while longer, her gaze scanning the horizon. The glow of her skin faded as her heat energy settled, but her alertness never wavered. She was ready for whatever the planet would throw at them next. In the quiet night, a bond was forming, not just between human and alien, but between two beings learning to trust, understand, and protect one another. Ethan and Lyra had survived the first full test of her heat, and they had done it together. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The shy alien partner he had first met was capable of incredible power, and together, they could face anything. The morning sun of Lythera 9 rose pale and weak, barely cutting through the swirling red dust that hung low over the cliffs. Ethan and Lyra had already been awake for hours, preparing for the expedition that would take them deeper into the northern canyon. Today's mission was critical. Magnetic readings suggested a previously undiscovered energy source, one that could provide the colony with power and knowledge about the planet's unusual ecosystem. Ethan checked his equipment, making sure their sensors were secure, and glanced at Lyra. She was silent, crouched beside a jagged rock formation, eyes scanning the terrain. Even though her heat cycle had subsided from yesterday's surge, her alertness remained. Every twitch of her body, every tilt of her head, was a warning to him. She sensed things humans could not. "You ready?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice calm. Lyra nodded, her long fingers brushing against the equipment to confirm its placement. She didn't speak. Her species often relied on gestures and expressions over words, and Ethan had learned to understand them. He smiled faintly. Trusting her instincts had saved them before, and today, it would be even more important. The path into the canyon was narrow, bordered by sharp rocks and deep fissures. As they walked, Ethan noticed subtle changes in the environment, small tremors beneath their feet, sudden shifts in air pressure, and a faint hum in the magnetic readings. Lyra's body responded instantly, her movements faster, more precise, yet still controlled. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. A small fissure cracked open near Ethan's foot, sending dust and debris into the air. He froze, unsure where to step next, but Lyra acted immediately. With fluid motion, she grabbed his arm and guided him to stable ground. "Careful," he muttered, though she didn't need the warning. Her heightened senses had already detected the instability. They continued deeper into the canyon, the walls narrowing as the terrain became more treacherous. Strange, glowing plants clung to the rocks, their bioluminescent leaves pulsating faintly. Lyra moved carefully around them, occasionally pausing to scan for predators. Ethan watched her, amazed at the way her instincts and intellect worked together. Her heat cycle, he realized, had trained her body and mind to respond perfectly to danger. Hours passed, and the canyon grew darker. Shadows stretched long across the jagged rocks, and the air grew thick with humidity. Ethan felt his own energy waning, but Lyra seemed unaffected. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and her movements were as precise as ever. He had never seen such endurance. Then, without warning, a low growl echoed through the canyon. Ethan froze. Something was approaching. Something large. Lyra's body tensed instantly. She crouched, her eyes scanning the shadows, and tapped her chest lightly, a signal to Ethan that danger was near. From the darkness emerged a group of native predators, wolf-sized creatures with glowing eyes and sharp claws. They moved in coordinated packs, circling the explorers with silent precision. Ethan's heart pounded. These creatures were fast, intelligent, and dangerous. Lyra stepped in front of him, her posture protective. Her body glowed faintly, a sign that her heat energy was returning. She moved with astonishing speed, intercepting the first predator before it could strike. Her agility and instincts allowed her to anticipate its moves, avoiding its claws and redirecting it away from Ethan. Ethan followed her lead, using his human ingenuity to help. He activated a small energy flare from his pack, distracting another predator, while Lyra handled the others. Together, they moved as a coordinated unit, human strategy and Varelian instinct working in perfect harmony. After a tense few minutes, the predators retreated, sensing the combined force of the two explorers. Ethan exhaled, his chest heaving. I don't know how you do that," he said, awe in his voice. Lyra's cheeks glimmered faintly, a soft glow of modesty and relief. She tapped her chest lightly, acknowledging his words without speaking. Ethan realized that her heat cycle was not just about power, it was also about awareness, focus, and instinctual intelligence. They pressed on, the canyon walls closing in tighter. Their goal was a small plateau where the energy readings had spiked. As they climbed, the rocks beneath them shifted, forcing them to rely on each other's guidance. Ethan's hands gripped the rocks, muscles straining, but he moved with Lyra's rhythm. Her presence was steadying, her instincts giving him confidence to navigate the dangerous path. Finally, they reached the plateau. A strange crystal formation rose from the ground, pulsing with magnetic energy. Ethan quickly set up his instruments, taking readings and recording data. Lyra moved around the formation, scanning it with her own senses. She tapped her chest and gestured toward the crystals, indicating a possible energy pattern that humans could not detect. Ethan's eyes widened. "You see it too?" he asked, amazed. The crystals emitted faint vibrations, patterns that only Lyra could sense with her heightened abilities. Together, They mapped the formation, combining human technology and Virelian instinct to unlock its secrets. As they worked, the sky darkened again. A sudden storm approached, faster than predicted. Winds whipped through the canyon, and lightning struck nearby peaks. Ethan secured the equipment while Lyra guided him to a safer spot behind the crystal formation. Her movements were quick, precise, instinctual. The heat energy in her body seemed to surge, giving her strength and agility beyond human capability. "Stay close," she signaled, her eyes locked on him. The storm hit with full force. Rain and dust mixed into a thick red haze, reducing visibility. Lightning struck dangerously close, shaking the ground beneath them. Ethan's hands trembled, but Lyra's presence calmed him. She moved with perfect timing, keeping them both safe from falling debris and sudden rock slides. Hours passed in this chaos, yet Ethan and Lyra never lost focus. Each hazard was met with strategy and instinct. Together, they navigated treacherous paths, avoided deadly falls, and protected the delicate crystal formation they had come to study. Finally, the storm subsided. The air cleared, revealing a sky filled with stars and twin moons reflecting on the canyon walls. Ethan looked at Lyra, still glowing faintly from the last surge of heat energy. She smiled softly, her cheeks shimmering in the moonlight. "You were amazing," he said, awe evident in his voice. "I don't think I could have survived this without you." And too. Lyra tapped her chest lightly, her way of expressing gratitude and modesty. Her body returned to its usual calm state, the faint glow fading. Ethan understood now that her heat cycle, while intense, was not something to fear. It was part of who she was, a force of nature that combined instinct, strength, and intelligence. As they rested on the plateau, Ethan reflected on the day. He had learned more about Lyra's species in these hours than most humans had in years. Her instincts were unmatched, but what impressed him most was her ability to combine that instinct with care and judgment. The heat cycle was not just a power, it was a partnership, a way to connect with those she trusted. Lyra, once shy and reserved, had revealed a side of herself that few humans could ever see. And Ethan realized something else. His admiration for her had grown beyond respect for her abilities. There was something in her presence, in the way she moved, thought, and reacted, that drew him in. But he pushed that thought aside for now. Survival came first. Before they rested fully, Ethan recorded the day's findings, noting both the magnetic data and Lyra's unusual abilities. The combination was extraordinary. The crystals, the terrain, and Lyra's instincts together formed a pattern that could lead to discoveries no human could achieve alone. As night fell, they set up a small shelter near the plateau. The stars shone brightly over Lythera 9, casting their red-tinted glow across the canyon. Ethan looked at Lyra, who was silently observing the horizon, her large eyes reflecting the distant lights of the colony. "You know," he said softly, "this planet, it's dangerous, but it feels alive, and I'm glad I'm not exploring it alone." Lyra tilted her head, a small smile on her face. She tapped her chest lightly and reached toward the ground, gently touching a patch of glowing moss. It was a silent acknowledgement, an expression of trust, companionship, and mutual respect. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Today had tested them both in ways neither could have predicted. Lyra's heat cycle had shifted the balance, making her not only a partner in exploration, but a protector, a guide, and a companion he could rely on. And tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges, perhaps even more dangerous, where their teamwork would be tested again. But for now, in the calm of the canyon under twin moons, human ingenuity and Virelian instinct had survived chaos together. Ethan closed his eyes, letting the quiet of the canyon soothe him. Lyra remained alert, her senses still sharp, yet the bond between them had grown stronger. In the wilds of Lythera 9, under alien skies, a partnership had formed, one that would face storms, predators, and the mysteries of the planet together. And as Ethan drifted into sleep, he knew that the shy alien partner he had first met was capable of incredible power, and that together, they could survive anything the planet had to offer. The first light of dawn painted Lythera 9 inches hues of red and gold. Ethan awoke to the gentle warmth of the sun filtering through the jagged canyon walls. Beside him, Lyra stirred, her movements calm, lime, yet her large eyes reflected the alertness of her species. The past days had tested both of them. Storms, predators, and the unpredictable surges of her heat cycle. Yet here they were, ready to face the final stage of their expedition. Their goal was the central plateau of the northern canyon, where the mysterious magnetic crystals had been emitting the strongest signals. The colony had relied on Ethan's preliminary data, and today's findings could unlock energy resources vital for human survival on Lythera 9. "Ready, Lyra?" Ethan asked, checking the navigation instruments. She nodded silently, brushing her long fingers across the sensors, confirming the path. Her quiet confidence had become familiar to him, a reassurance that, no matter what lay ahead, they could face it together. The climb was steep and treacherous. Loose rocks threatened to tumble with every step, and narrow ledges demanded careful balance. Ethan led the way, but Lyra's instincts guided him around hidden dangers. Even without her heat fully engaged, her senses were sharper than his. He felt a deep respect for her abilities. Realizing that she was more than a partner, she was the key to their success. As they neared the plateau, the ground began to vibrate slightly. Ethan paused, reading the instruments. The magnetic energy was spiking, higher than anything he had recorded before. Lyra's body reacted immediately. Her skin shimmered faintly, the first subtle signs of heat energy returning. Her movements became more precise, more fluid, and her large eyes scanned the surroundings with an intensity that even Ethan found mesmerizing. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the canyon. A small section of the cliff above them collapsed, sending debris tumbling toward their path. Ethan froze, but Lyra reacted instantly. With astonishing speed, she darted forward, pushing him out of the way and securing a safe path. The debris crashed around them, but neither was harmed. "You're amazing," Ethan gasped, catching his breath. I don't know what I would have done without you." Lyra's cheeks glimmered faintly, a subtle Virelian sign of modesty. She tapped her chest lightly, acknowledging his words while returning her attention to the crystals ahead. The plateau was unlike anything Ethan had imagined. Hundreds of crystal formations rose from the ground, pulsing with magnetic energy. Their glow illuminated the surrounding rocks, casting dancing reflections across the canyon walls. Ethan quickly set up the scanning equipment, his hands shaking slightly from the excitement and the danger of the climb. Lyra moved among the crystals, her eyes following the pulsing patterns. The subtle hum of the magnetic energy resonated with her senses. She tapped her chest and gestured toward a particular formation, indicating an alignment that humans could not detect. Ethan adjusted the instruments according to her guidance, marveling at her ability to interpret patterns invisible to his technology. Hours passed as they mapped the crystals, recorded magnetic fluctuations, and collected samples. The synergy between human technology and Virelian instinct was undeniable. Ethan realized that their success depended not only on science, but on trust, understanding, and cooperation. As the sun began to set, painting the canyon in deep oranges and purples, Lyra's heat cycle intensified. The subtle glow across her skin brightened, and her movements became even more precise and fluid. She moved faster than Ethan could follow, scanning the plateau and ensuring their safety. "You need to rest," Ethan urged gently. "You've been active all day." Lyra paused, her large eyes meeting his. For the first time, there was a softness in her gaze, a silent acknowledgement of his concern. She tapped her chest lightly, then gestured toward the crystals, a subtle indication that she could not stop yet. Ethan nodded, understanding that her instincts were guiding them to a critical discovery. Suddenly, a tremor shook the ground beneath them. One of the largest crystal formations began to tilt dangerously, threatening to collapse and destroy the plateau. Ethan's heart pounded. Without Lyra's heightened abilities, they might not survive. Lyra reacted instantly. Her heat energy surged, her body moving with unmatched speed and precision. She leapt toward the unstable crystal, using her strength and agility to stabilize it temporarily. Ethan followed, supporting her with careful positioning of equipment and tools. Together, human and Varelian worked in harmony. A seamless partnership of logic and instinct. Minutes felt like hours. But finally, the crystal was secure. Ethan exhaled in relief. I can't believe we did it," he said, staring at Lyra in awe. She tapped her chest lightly, her glow fading as her heat cycle began to settle. For the first time, she smiled fully at him, a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. Ethan realized that these moments of danger, trust, and cooperation had transformed their relationship. They were no longer just partners. They were a team capable of facing any challenge. Night fell, and the twin moons rose high above the canyon. Ethan and Lyra sat near the largest crystal, now calm and pulsing gently. The magnetic energy resonated softly, a constant reminder of the planet's mysteries and the knowledge they had uncovered. "You know," Ethan said softly, breaking the silence. "This planet, it's dangerous, unpredictable, and amazing all at once. But exploring it with you makes it feel possible." Lyra's eyes met his. She tapped her chest lightly, then reached out to touch his hand, not as a human would, but in a Virelian gesture of connection. Ethan understood. Trust, respect, and care had grown between them, bridging species and instincts. The night passed peacefully. Ethan and Lyra rested beside the glowing crystals, their bond stronger than ever. Tomorrow would bring new missions, new discoveries, and perhaps more dangers. But they were ready. Together, human and Virelian, they could face anything. In the days that followed, they returned to the colony with their findings. The magnetic energy from the crystals provided a sustainable source of power, ensuring the survival of the research station and future human exploration. Ethan's reports highlighted not only the scientific discoveries, but also the extraordinary abilities and instincts of Lyra's species. The humans were amazed, but Ethan knew that the real marvel was not just the crystals or the energy. They were the partnership he had formed with Lyra. Her heat cycle, once unpredictable and mysterious, had become a symbol of strength, trust, and harmony between species. Ethan often reflected on their first meeting. The shy, reserved Lyra had transformed in ways he could never have anticipated. Her heat cycle, which he had once feared might be dangerous, had revealed the true essence of her abilities and character. She was strong, intelligent, and instinctive, but also caring and loyal. One evening, under the twin moons, Ethan and Lyra sat together, reviewing the data. Lyra tapped her chest lightly, then gestured toward the horizon. Ethan followed her gaze and saw the canyon stretching endlessly, filled with untapped potential and secrets yet to be discovered. "I think we're ready for the next step," Ethan said quietly. Lyra nodded. Her cheeks glimmered faintly, the last traces of her heat cycle settling. She reached out, her hand brushing against his, a gesture of trust, partnership, and understanding. Ethan smiled, realizing that their journey was only beginning. Lythera 9 had tested them, challenged them, and revealed their strengths. But it had also shown them something more: the power of cooperation, the importance of trust, and the extraordinary possibilities that could arise when two species worked together. As they prepared for the next expedition, Ethan felt a sense of hope and excitement. With Lyra by his side, he knew that they could uncover the mysteries of Lythera 9, face dangers unimaginable, and achieve feats no human or Varelian could accomplish alone. The planet stretched before them, wild and untamed, yet full of promise. And at the center of it all was a partnership forged in trust, danger, and mutual respect. A human and a Virelian, ready to explore the stars together. In that quiet moment, under the glow of twin moons and shimmering crystals, Ethan understood the truth. Lyra's heat cycle was not something to fear. It was a gift, a force of nature that, when combined with human ingenuity, could change everything. And together, they were unstoppable.